A video on the moon of Scorpio with the sun in Leo.
Conscious in pursuit of president, speaking dollars, that's my president. Elevated, overthrow the president, flowing better than it's ever been. A young Anglo-American, golly, how we swiftly mix the recipe.
In the custody belief, high by Riz, on it found myself.
A with the vision, heaven elemental, periodic verse, hidden inside 47.
You'll be astonished, chronic ugdotis, smoking out my lungs, pack a punch.
That's how we make my eyes bleed.
Broken vision, fix it like my elemental mountains, Mary back each other, screaming my chakras balance.
Truly wanna lady, but I'm blessed, truly wanna thank ya. Truly wanna thank ya to my creator, Mamakati.
Love renaissance to the fullest, it's all love from up above. Switching lanes, gripping on the wheel again to the fifth dimension. Face a whole seven in a sit-in.
Indian style build.
Crippin' blood united too. But don't pass, trump the blunt, fool. Shot to this a killing concert. Inspire me to drop a bomb first. On these bitch made the leaders, and they go the truly golden leaders.
But it's
Gangland, so grab your heater. Cold as Alaska, we all King Kunta. To these martial law pursuers.
Another dead by police or interracial beef. Drowned in the melting pot, divide and conquer. How they plan to feast.
Alright, so with all that being said, we got the moon of Scorpio with the sun in Leo. So it's learning the secrets of the stage. So essentially, at this point in time, with the moon of Scorpio, it's a debilitated moon sign. So we just got to work with what we got, so to speak. And at this point in time, we're going to be in a space that we're going to have these in-depth transformative emotions. And with the sun in Leo, it essentially is going to put the spotlight on the in-depth transformation at this point in time as well. So we're going to have to learn behind the scenes and the intricacies of our circumstance situation to actually benefit oneself. And moving forward, we're going to have the moon sextiling Mercury and Venus, right? Then we're going to have the moon squaring the sun. And we have the moon also trining Saturn and Neptune. Moon in conjunct North Node and Chiron. And also Jupiter. Then we have the moon opposed Uranus. And I'm going to go ahead and break all this down. So with the moon sextiling Mercury and Virgo, we're seeing the opportunity to be in depth with our emotions based on the way we think about the details. And that moon sextile on Venus, Venus being a Virgo is also debilitated. This is like a double up. So essentially at this point in time, we're going to have these in-depth emotions. We're going to be valuing the details as well. So we kind of got to work with what we got based on the Venus energy. So like you got to create love whenever you have Aries and, Venus and Aries, Venus and Virgo, and also Venus and Scorpio. And keep in mind, like I say, the moon doesn't do too well in Scorpio. It's at work or at fall, so to speak. So, or like kind of like in a space that it doesn't like to be, so to speak, is another way to put it. So essentially, Venus and Virgo is valuing the details and valuing the critique and things like that. So people don't like to be critical whenever they're actually in love and things of that nature. So essentially, with the moon of Scorpio, we're going to see the opportunity to transform our emotions to actually value these details at this point in time. And then moon is squaring the sun is being in a space, like I say, to learn the secrets of the stage. So sun and Leo being the stage, and then moon of Scorpio is these in-depth emotions. So essentially, we're transforming oneself or seeing the secrets of our emotions to actually learn about our transformative circumstances of the stage. So essentially, us being on stage is a transformative circumstance in general. So like, you want to be able to interact with the stagehand and things like that, and the behind-the-scenes circumstance situations. Whenever you're on the stage and things of that nature. So like you being the in-charge individual and being the entertainment or being the one at the forefront, you essentially want to have behind-the-scenes circumstances and the secrets of the stage to not be revealed. But essentially you want to be aware of these circumstance situations. And yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Metric Sphinx, you know what I'm saying? First time I'm seeing you in here. Shout out to Will Catherine. And shout out to all the individuals that ain't got no life, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and, you know what I'm saying, expose yourself and show, make an ass of yourself, you know what I'm saying? We here for y'all too, you know what I'm saying? it is what it is. I kind of enjoy having like individuals that don't have no mind. You know what I'm saying? Just being on the internet for no reason. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of interesting. You know what I'm saying? Lets me know what kind of circumstance situation I'm in comparatively to others. So yeah, it's kind of like gives me a little laugh and things like that whenever y'all make an ass of y'all. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, yeah, like for example, this individual. What is a bork? You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no life, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like people like y'all just let me know like the world is lost anyways. So it's like whenever you realize the world is lost, you just got individuals in the space that like you know what I'm saying just go ahead and expose their hand. And at the end of the day, when people expose their hand, they look like dumbasses. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's not true at all. You know what I'm saying? Even if I was 3 times your age, be getting old is a better thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? If whenever you get old, you're gonna be in a circumstance situation where like, dag, like why is the youngest making fun of me? You know what I'm saying? So like if people like you just sound stupid. And it's funny whenever you just have people sounding stupid. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, people like y'all just makes me laugh. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I do know what individuals are saying. Individuals just saying they ain't got no life. That's pretty much all they're saying. But yeah, shout out to 28 grams, you know what I'm saying? OZs. Shout out to Ohio, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, getting back to my point, we're gonna have the moon trying to Saturn, and based on moon is Scorpio, right, being a water sign, and Saturn being in a water sign as well, being Pisces. Yeah, facts. You know what I'm saying? Smoke one time. But yeah, with this being said, it's essentially having the gift to restrict ourselves to actually achieve our dreams and things like that. And then you probably, this individual talking about my beard. At the end of the day, you probably an individual that can't even grow no beard. So you just like mad and jealous and things like that. You just mad. It just be hilarious. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm for it today. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, all right. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to focus on one individual to transform my whole live stream. But I just do find it funny that individuals ain't got no life. And they want to go ahead and just sound crazy and make an ass of themselves. It's hilarious. But yeah, like I say, Saturn in Pisces essentially restricting oneself to achieve your dream or being in a space where with the moon in Scorpio, we're going to transform our emotions to actually achieve our dreams at this point in time if you're on the higher octave. Shout out to lemonade, you know what I'm saying? Lemonade always make me feel good, have me in a space that I'm enjoying life, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, like I say, shout out 28 grams, that's what's up. And then moving forward, we also have the moon trying to Saturn and Neptune. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, we're transforming our emotions or being in-depth space to actually achieve our illusions that we're in. So essentially, it's Neptune being illusions, dreams, and nightmares. And essentially, Pisces being in that space, it's at home. So at this point in time, we're transforming our emotions to actually put ourselves in a space where we can go ahead and achieve our illusions or even achieve our nightmares that we've actually been accumulating. And then moving forward, we have the moon in conjuncting the North Node in Chiron, which is both in Aries. So essentially, Aries being that in conjunction to Scorpio, it's like the misunderstanding between the internal Mars and external Mars. So essentially, the moon is in a space where we're very internally passionate about our emotions. And then the North Node in Chiron is very externally passionate about our circumstance situation. So Aries just go ahead and tell you about your character. Scorpio kind of manipulate the character because they're aware of it. So essentially, we're having a misunderstanding based on our transformative emotions between our individuality in the North Node. So essentially, whenever we're dealing with these circumstance situations, you kind of just want to be in a space where, am I actually achieving my passions, or am I able to actually be in a space to utilize this passion to be in a beneficial space? So we may misunderstand our emotions based on our individuality at this point in time and being an individual. So like Moon and Scorpio may have you in a space where like, should I transform myself to actually be a more part of a collective, or just go ahead and be an individual? You're kind of on that in between space, that 150-degree angle. And then Chiron also being here, it's like that wounded healer of your individuality. Like you've been wounded so many times being an individual because nobody else is like you and things of that nature, to a point where you thinking like it's kind of like the North Node as well. You're in a space where should I just transform my emotions and transform how I feel about things to actually adapt to the collective? But no, you should actually just be in a space where you realize it's that misunderstanding space, that you being an individual is actually internally kind of like shifting your emotions at this point in time. And I'm saying based on Mars, it's kind of like that like that inconjunction space between your external passion and your internal passion. Then moving forward, we also have the moon in conjuncting Jupiter, right? And Jupiter being in Gemini, excuse me, is essentially being in a space where you want to see both sides of the truth, or maybe you might be too wise for your own good at this point in time, based on Jupiter being debilitated. Excuse me. And with our, I'm going ahead and read the chat. You know what I'm saying? Young Elton John, shout out Elton John. You know what I'm saying? People is hilarious. But yeah, let's see what else we got here. You know what I'm saying? It should be funny, you know what I'm saying? Just reading all these messages. Yeah, this is funny right here. But yeah, saying you go ahead and keep on giving me watch time. Individuals that be hating, you know what I'm saying? I'm cool with it all. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, act like act like anybody care about what they're saying. You know, so I'm gonna keep on doing my thing regardless. But it's kind of hilarious. Yeah, you obviously bored because you ain't got no life. You know what I'm saying? You like your mama is probably like, damn, like why is my son out here just trolling and not having no life and not actually benefiting themselves and things of that nature. But yeah, what time is it where I'm at? It's time to get a watch. You know what I'm saying? It's time to get a watch. You know what I'm saying? I'm just playing. But yeah, it's like 5 in the morning where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of. I said I'm going live tonight, but at the end of the day, shoot, it's still kind of the nighttime. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Shout out to everybody that be on my community posts and things of that nature. But yeah, shoot, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? It's either, like with the moon to Scorpio, it's like either you transform yourself or you get transformed. So like these individuals that be on the chat, you'll say talking wild, at the end of the day, they just transform themselves for the non-beneficial status and things of that nature. No, this is funny, yo. Yo, this is hilarious to me. But yeah, moving forward, last but not least, we also have the moon opposing Uranus. And Uranus being a Taurus is essentially being in that space where you want to ground your individuality or ground your rebellious nature or your uniqueness and things of that nature. So essentially it goes back to like, do you want to transform your emotions to be a part of the collective and be like everybody else? Or do you want to actually be in a space where you can add on to your individuality at this point in time? But yeah, moving forward, you know, so I guarantee you I get more chili cheesecake than anybody talking crazy in the chat. At the end of the day, you on YouTube, you know what I'm saying, wasting your time instead of actually benefiting yourself and going to get some paper. Like people that be hating, they obviously ain't got no time to essentially have anything beneficial going on in their life, so they just want to talk crazy about everybody else. It's like this is where they get a rise out of individuals like, oh dang, they mentioned what I had to say in my from my comment. Oh dang, oh this is making me feel so good about myself. But yeah, we go ahead and break down all the rising signs. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's just funny to me. Shout out to Karma Angel. Yeah, at the end of the day, whenever you realize that individuals that are on your chat for no reason, and like people hating on astrologers, they obviously got no life. So essentially, I like to put it in perspective. Like at the end of the day, you were like responding to the haters isn't a bad thing, because whenever individuals got something crazy to say, if you let them keep on saying crazy stuff and you don't respond to it, that end up being the narrative. So I'm saying whenever you got a certain amount of individuals just talking crazy, at some point in time, you got to go ahead and address it. But yeah, yeah, exactly. You ain't doing nothing for yourself. Like you could be out on the block, you could be networking, you could be doing all kind of things. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just because it's 5 in the morning don't mean you can't get to the grind and go ahead and get on your 1-2. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, individual that just be like laying in their bed eating yogurt, you know what I'm saying? You just depressed. So it's hilarious. But yeah. Moving forward, like I say, and I just find it funny. That's why I go ahead and respond. But yeah, shoot, I'm do your thing. But yeah, Scorpio in the first house is essentially personal affairs and personal transformations. So essentially, Scorpio being a transformative individual at any point in time, not just being their personality and their individuality in general, they're going to be in a space to either be accepting themselves and accepting that they're a transformative individual and they're an individual that's going to bring a rise out of people no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So Scorpio at this point in time either has to accept themselves, or accept that they may be an individual that they kind of got to be a little bit more tentative, or walk on glass, so to speak. I forget what that saying is, but it is what it is. But yeah, so essentially, Scorpio in the first house, either you accept yourself, or you're in a space where you don't really want to accept yourself and realize that you're the only individual that can be yourself. So yeah, moving forward, the Libra rising is having the Scorpio in the second house, and Scorpio in the second house is essentially valuing transformation or valuing rebirth. And essentially, the second house values of a person, place, thing, or idea. So essentially, the people, places, and things that you're around are essentially influencing you, so you influencing them as well. So realize that at this point in time, the emotions that you're in are going to be transformative, and the places that you're in are going to be transformative as well. People, places, and things. So it's either you valuing these individuals and how they're influencing you, or you in a space where it's like, dag, I don't really value these individuals that I'm around, and you're realizing that this is maybe a circumstance, situation that you need to shift from. Or you realize that essentially, okay, this is just the moon of Scorpio. It's going to be transformative and in general. So yeah, moving forward, the Virgo rising is having the third house being a Scorpio. The third house is all about the environment, or your neighborhood, so to speak. So essentially, Virgo is being that sextile to Scorpio. So seeing the opportunity in your environment to see the details. So you're looking over your environment like, dag, are these individuals in my environment actually benefiting me? Or am I in a space that these individuals I'm around, or this neighborhood that I'm in, is actually not, it's a non-beneficial space. So you're able to see the opportunity of either side of that at this point in time. But yeah, moving forward, the Leo rising is having the fourth house being a Scorpio. So the fourth house to the first house is a square, or a learning opportunity. So learning to transform yourself in your private matters or your home at this point in time. So it's like I say earlier in the live, it's like either you're in a space where you're just being complacent and you're realizing dad, everything else around me is changing, but I'm just being in the same space and I'm not really shifting myself at this point in time. So being that Leo rising, you want to learn to actually transform your home space, or transform these emotions that are close to you or close to your heart at this point in time. So like I say, it's either you transform things for yourself, or you get transformed. You know what I'm saying? Keep in mind that Scorpio is co-ruled by Pluto. So it's at home in Mars, but it's co-ruled by Pluto. So it's in that space where things are very transformative whenever we're dealing with Scorpio energies. So essentially, you want to learn to transform your home before you being in your home keeps you complacent, and you're start having just dumb things on your mind, or stupid emotions and things like that. You end up being a kind of a troll. You know what I'm saying? You get a rise out of individuals, you know what I'm saying, just responding to you just because you're talking crazy. But yeah, moving forward, the Cancer rising. I like talking crazy too. Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't got no issue with it. You know what I'm saying? But hey, on the internet is one thing, and real life is another thing. Let's just always keep that in mind. So individuals in real life don't be saying these kind of things at any point in time. But individuals that are on the internet, they're gonna have a whole different way of being about it. So it's the internet done changed everything. It's individuals can get a rise, or have an ego about what they post and what they type in their phone, but at the end of the day, they don't got no personal skills, don't have no kind of people skills, they don't have no integrity, so they wouldn't say none of this stuff to your face. So all my fellow content creators and individuals on the internet, keep that in mind. You know what I'm saying? If individuals want to talk crazy, that's just what it is, and it's up to you to either respond or not. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, if you go ahead and you can talk your talk too, and you got good charismatic gifts as well, go ahead and do your thing. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, getting back to the point, Cancer rising is having the fifth house being a Scorpio. So essentially, it's the gift to express your emotions, or express your transformations at this point in time based on them both being in water signs. So like, keep in mind, being that Cancer rising, you're a person that likes to initiate and create emotions. So being in a space where we have the fifth house being a Scorpio, you can actually express those emotions that you've been fixed on at any point in time, to a point where it's like you're transforming oneself to a point where it's essentially being a space that, okay, now I have the gift to actually express my emotions at this point in time based on, like I say, you having the moon in the fifth house. So don't be too expressive to a point where you being so nasty, being that Cancer rising, to a point where it's like, yeah, you do have the gift to express yourself, but you want to realize there is like a cap or a limit on it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to put yourself in a space where you're so transformative in your expression to a point where, you know what I'm saying, you actually exposing your own hand. So keep that in mind. Moving forward, the Gemini rising is having the sixth house being a Scorpio. And the sixth house is all about the details, the routines, the patterns, and your work. So essentially, the Gemini is in a space where they always want to adapt to things and circumstances, situations like that. So don't be so adaptive at this point in time. You want to be an individual that can actually transform your routine and pattern for the benefit of oneself. And that's where the Gemini misunderstands, because the Gemini is in a space where they'd rather adapt instead of actually being in a genuine space where they realize that if I transform oneself or transform my own routine and pattern, I can actually put myself in a beneficial space. Or like, if you're not actually liking where you work at this point in time, you want to put yourself in a space where, okay, where could I actually see myself benefiting from the influence of my work? So yeah, I'm a Gemini moon. So like a perfect example of that is like, I realized, like I said, like I was mentioning earlier, like the individuals in the chat that talk crazy, they let me realize that, okay, I'm actually in an emotional space where my routine and pattern is actually benefiting oneself instead of being in a space where I'm trolling. You know what I'm saying? If you're in a space where you like your work is trolling, shoot, I don't know what kind of money you making off that. But yeah, moving forward, the Taurus rising is having the seventh house being in Scorpio, right? And the seventh house is all about your relations. So being that Taurus, you're in that opposition space to Scorpio. So you can either add on or oppose to your relationships. And depending on the certain relationship, you might actually need to transform things to a point where you need to be on the opposite side of the relationship, and, you know what I'm saying, be in integrity. So it kind of depends on your circumstance situation. But essentially, if you're in that beneficial space or that higher octave to a point where you can actually feel comfortable relating and being candid about how you really feel about things, you know what I'm saying, it could be in a space where you being fixed in your personal life can actually benefit your relationship, because if we were all the same, what will we benefit from it? You know what I'm saying? Keep that in mind. Moving forward, the Aries rising is having the eighth house being in Pisces, pardon me, eighth house being in Scorpio. And the eighth house is all about transformation, rebirth, and circumstance situations like that. So Aries being in a space where it's externally passionate in their personal life, they may be in a space where, like, I don't actually see what's going on behind the scenes, to a point where my internal passion is in a space where, like, I may misunderstand how to actually change things or rebirth things. Like, because I'm already, you know what I'm saying, changing and rebirthing things always in my external life and being in my personality and things of that nature. So Aries at this point in time, you kind of want to sit back and see, like, okay, what is actually going on behind the scenes, to a point where, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying, I see how I'm affecting people's character and things of that nature, but how could I actually be more secretive and see behind the scenes of what's actually going on based on the way I'm interacting with the world, things of that nature. So essentially, being that Aries in that higher octave, you're able to kind of sit back and see, all right, this is actually what's going on behind the scenes, and this is the characters that individuals are being in behind the scenes. This is the reason why they're interacting with this in this way and things of that nature. Or how I actually interact in this point in time, could I actually transform that to a point where I could actually benefit oneself and kind of be more manipulative and things of that nature. Keep in mind, Scorpio is that manipulative sign, because that they're that internal Mars, to a point where they have their internal passions and they go and achieve them. You know what I'm saying? Aries is more of the external Mars, to a point where they just go ahead and go out and get it and go ahead and tell you what they're doing. They don't really care what you think about it. But Scorpio going to kind of be a little bit more strategic and things like that. So essentially, you want to be a little bit more strategic and see what's going on behind the scenes, to a point where you could actually benefit oneself based on how you interact, being that Aries rising. And shout out to everybody that liked the video. Shout out to everybody that subscribed. You know what I'm saying? I salute y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to salute with my left hand. It don't really matter. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? I salute all y'all, and I'm very grateful. So shout out to everybody that keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And keep it locked. You know what I'm saying? They stay in tune with the movement they need to be in tune with. You know what I'm saying? Moving forward, after that commercial break, we have in the ninth house being a Scorpio as a Pisces rising. And essentially, you're having the gift to transform your experience at this point in time, or a gift to experience your morality. So essentially, the Pisces being in a space where they actually like adapt to their emotions and things of that nature in their personal life, they can actually see, okay, where could I actually transform my experience, or where could I maybe experience something different, to a point where if I transform my circumstance, situation, or transform my experience, or go ahead and transform my morality, could I actually be in a more beneficial space. Like, try not to be holier than thou at this point in time, essentially being in that Pisces rising. You want to go ahead and actually be your genuine self, to a point where it's actually transforming your experience. At this point in time, like I say, you have the gift to do that. So being in that space of that, both the being a water sign of your personal life, then also dealing with the water moon, you're going to be in a space where these emotions are very prominent. So keep that in mind. Aquarius rising is having the 10th house being a Scorpio. The 10th house is all about your status, your blueprint, and your career. So this being that Scorpio energy, it's that transformation energy. So learning to change a status, or learning to transform your status at this point in time to actually benefit oneself. So like I say, it goes back to Scorpio being strategic, and Aquarius kind of being in that space where they're being fixed air. So like they're always consistent or stubborn upon their way of communicating or thinking. So you want to be in a space where, okay, maybe if I change my communication style, maybe in turn change my status. So like be a little bit more strategic about how you go about what you're known for, so to speak, being that Aquarius rising. Essentially, if you're on that higher octave, you're in a space where you realize the things that you say, or the way that you think, can actually affect the external world or affect your status at this point in time. And if you're on that lower octave, you're in a space where it's like, I don't really care how I interact and things like that, or I don't really feel myself like being able to transform my way of being, or transform my circumstance, situation, or transform my emotions to actually benefit my status. So like Aquarius is kind of like that unique individual that they're okay with being looked at as weird and things like that, and that might not actually benefit you based on the status or career. Keep that in mind. And a Capricorn rising is having the 11th house being in Scorpio, and the 11th house is all about your association, your public persona. So Capricorn is essentially seeing the opportunity to change their association, or change their public persona at this point in time. So like Capricorn is that initiating and creating logistics and practicality, being cardinal earth sign, right? And then Scorpio being a fixed water. So and essentially being in the moon, Capricorn doesn't really deal with emotions too much. They're able to actually see, okay, based on being a part of this group, I could actually benefit more from being a part of this group. And it's just pretty much simple as that. And the Capricorn is having the opportunity to see that. So at this point in time. So it's like, would I make more money with this group, or would I have a better status with this group? And that's kind of what the Capricorn is dealing with at this point in time. And then moving forward, the Sagittarius rising is having the 12th house, last but not least, being a Scorpio. So it's essentially being in depth with your emotions about your dreams at this point in time. So Sagittarius is dealing with, do I actually genuinely feel internally passionate about my dreams at this point in time, or am I in a space where like I don't actually feel so like comfortable to the point where I can transform oneself to actually achieve my dream? So being that Sagittarius rising, you might be in a space where you're like, dang, I kind of just want to adapt. I just kind of want to be wiser than everybody else in this circumstance situation, to a point where it doesn't really matter what I do, or it doesn't really matter what I dream. But essentially, you want to be in a space where you can actually see yourself transforming these dreams and illusions and nightmares to a point where it's having you in a space that I actually want to reach for my dream. And the 12th house is like being in that illusionary space. So keep in mind, like, it might be a little bit more far out than you think it is. But essentially, if you feel in depth about being far out, or being in that way of being an individual at this point in time, then that's actually you being on the higher octave, like to a point where you want to transform your dreams, illusions, and nightmares to a point where you can actually benefit oneself. It's like if you go ahead and continue to reach for your dream, or reach for something that's kind of far out, it can actually be in a beneficial space because you keep on striving for greatness, so to speak. So like Sagittarius, essentially, make sure you transform whatever you got going on in your illusionary realm before it transforms you, essentially. So yeah, pretty much wrapping it up and putting it all in a nutshell. It's like, do you actually see what's going on behind the scenes, and do you see those internal passions about your emotions to a point where you're learning about the behind the scenes of the secrets of the stage? So like I was explaining earlier, like you being the performer on stage, are you actually seeing the stage hands and you see the way that they actually interact to a point where your show is being put out to the forefront in this certain space? So it's like, if you go ahead and rap in your verse, or like you on the stage performing, do they actually put the fire out at the right time? And like you go ahead and rewatch your show and you're seeing like, dag, like these certain stage hands actually had certain things going on to a point where it actually didn't benefit the stage or didn't benefit the performance. So like you essentially want to transform those things at this point in time and transform those behind the scenes aspects to put it all in a nutshell. But yeah, much love and holla back, you know what I'm saying? And peace and love if you believe in all that. And you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and support the movement you need to be in tune with. I salute all y'all that do that. And like I said, I got the Cash App in the description if you want to go ahead and do that. You know what I'm saying? And go ahead and email me. I also have the email in the description if you're looking for any kind of reading at this point in time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, much love and holla back at me. Peace and love if you believe in all that.